Let's go ahead and start on session 5, engagement strategies. This is my favorite class by far to teach, and the one that I think is the most powerful, even though I think it's often the most overlooked. The one that teachers are like, oh yeah, engagement strategies. I know those are important, but they're really, really important. So I hope tonight you leave with an understanding of why. One housekeeping item. Before we start, I have a checklist I'm going to pass around, and there's your name in one column already, but then I'm wondering if you would write your school and your mentor teacher's name so that we have accurate records. I have many of your mentor teachers, but not all, so I thought this is, for me, an easier way just to make sure we get everyone. So can we do it like this, and when it gets to the end of the row, will you just pass it behind you, and let's go all the way across the rows instead of trying to zigzag back and forth between sides. We'll just go all the way across the row. Thank you. If you have your name tent, and you haven't put it out yet, would you please do that? Thank you. That just helps me know who you are, remember who you are. Okay, so when we say engagement strategies, we're talking tonight about how you get your students' attention and how you keep your students' attention. We talked in session 2 extensively about hand raising, right? If kids have something to say, they need to raise their hand to solicit for attention. That's how they get your attention. That is not how you should be getting their attention. You should not be pulling the whole, raise your hand if you can tell me what perimeter means. If they knew what perimeter meant, why are you up there instructing? Your job as the teacher is to provide instruction, to tell them, today we're going to talk about what perimeter means. Some of you already know that, but I'm going to tell you what perimeter means. Your job is to give direct instruction and to use engagement strategies to keep the kids with you. Not, raise your hand if you can tell me. Raise your hand if you can tell me. Raise your hand if you'd like to answer. There should be minimal raising hands for the students to give you an answer. That's just how they get your attention if they have something to say. And I hope that makes more sense to you as we go through, because I'm seeing some deer in the headlights looks like, what? I thought you told us they had to raise their hands. They do. They do. Don't go away from that. But let's talk about how you can get group responses without requiring hand raising. Here's my sad story about requiring kids to raise hands. I think the superintendent came to orientation and he told you that I had his grandson in my first grade class, and his name is Tanner. Tanner has something called auto-processing disorder. Will you say auto-processing disorder? Auto-processing disorder, which means that it takes him longer to process information and to recall information than it does other kids. So what happened is Tanner was in my first grade class, and we were about to start a vocabulary lesson kind of late in the afternoon. And guess who walks in the door? Good old Grandpa Superintendent. And he's wearing his nice suit and his tie, and he's got his clipboard, and he says, oh, don't mind me, I'm just going to sit in the back. And I was like, okay. So he goes to the back of the classroom, and he sits down with his clipboard, and a second later in walks the principal. She decided she would accompany him, and she says, we'll just be here a minute. They were there 45 minutes. Let me just say that before I finish. And they sat in the back as I taught this vocabulary lesson. And the lesson was on the word destroy. And we were talking about things that could be destroyed, things that couldn't be destroyed. And I kept doing this. Okay, good. So an earthquake could destroy something. Good. What else could destroy something? Raise your hand if you have an idea. What else could destroy something? Ruin it, completely obliterate it. It can't be fixed. And I'm trying to be kind of animated and fun and cute, right? And I see all these hands, and guess what Tanner's doing in the front row? Power position. He was a very obedient student, but he sat like this. Somebody else says, a volcano. Ooh, that's a good one. A volcano could destroy something. All the hot lava covering everything. What else could destroy something? And I'm kind of looking at Tanner like, don't you want to say something? Your grandpa's in the back. And he just sits there, and I take 5 more ideas, and I finally say, any other ideas, any final ideas about something that could destroy something? Tanner, do you have any ideas? And I asked him directly, and he went like this. And I was like, I have failed as a teacher because his grandpa was there for 45 minutes and his grandson didn't make a single comment. And a lot of it was my fault because I was saying, who knows, who has an idea, raise your hand if, and I was calling on individuals instead of the group. So, a couple years after that, we had a visit in our district from two huge names in education, Anita Archer, Kevin Feldman. Raise your hand if those names are at all familiar to you. A couple of us? Oh, good. Okay, Anita Archer, Kevin Feldman, both preach the same doctrine. In your class, you should never be allowing only individual responses, or you should very rarely be allowing individual responses. You should be bringing in the entire group as often as possible. Their idea really resonated with me, and it became our district motto. Our district motto, this is the case of the cursed remote. Turned on. Should we see? Cross your fingers. Okay, we'll try it. Our district motto, after Anita Archer and Kevin Feldman came to visit us, is everyone does everything. And when we say that, I think everyone is probably a pretty easy action to attach to it. Maybe we could signal that we're including the entire group. Will you show me, though, if you have an idea for what we could do for everything? Everyone does everything. Will you just show me at your seat if you have an idea what we could do? Okay, some people going like this, like everyone does every task. Okay, so maybe we'll go like this. We'll say everyone, to include the group, does everything. All the tasks, everybody's doing them. Okay, can we start? Everyone ready? Everyone does everything. Everyone in your classroom should be doing every task. Much like a school of fish moves together, they swim together. Do you get it? School of fish. Thank you. Thanks for the sympathy laughs. I thought that was kind of clever. But we want our students to move as a body. We want them to move as one through the curriculum. Okay, so let's talk about why you would want to do that. Let me give you a better example first, and then I'll ask you to talk about this. So be thinking about it for just a second, but engagement would look like this. Instead of saying to the students, raise your hand if you know what perimeter means, an engagement strategy would look like this. Students, today we're going to talk about the word perimeter. Will you say perimeter? Ready? Perimeter. Perimeter means when I measure the outside area of a shape. I measure the outside edges, I add all those edges together, that tells me the perimeter. And of course, in reality, I would be drawing a picture, right? I'm not expecting them to follow my hand gestures. So when we say perimeter, could we get our pointer fingers out and could we maybe trace the outside area of a shape? We could go perimeter. Could you try that with me? Ready? Perimeter. Perfect, thank you. I'd probably do some more examples on the board to be clear about what perimeter is, and then I might say something like, can I have everybody take out a whiteboard? We're going to practice drawing a couple of shapes and finding the perimeter. So we just had 3 opportunities for engagement there. First, when you repeat the word perimeter. Second, when you add an action and you trace what perimeter looks like in the air. And third, when you take out your whiteboard and we're going to do some whole group practice. As opposed to, who can tell me what perimeter is? Who's really smart and already knows the answer and doesn't need this lesson? Okay, so I want you to talk to your partner. I'll give you maybe a minute or 2. And I don't have my magnet. So you're not going to know who's supposed to go first. Would you talk to your partner about why would you have everyone do everything? What can you foresee are the benefits of that? Letter B's. Would you go first? 2 minutes, go. Thank you very much for discussing that. If I draw your stick, would you share with the group what you and your partner said? Why would it be important to have everyone do everything in a classroom? What are the benefits of that? Allison. ALI. That's the one. You realize you could pretend you weren't here and I wouldn't know. You could just be like, Wonder who Allison is. Just kidding. Some of you I would catch. Annie, I would catch you. She's my daughter's teacher. That's why I say that. Okay, everyone does everything. What are the benefits?
Yes, so we talked about every kid having to engage in the task, and therefore hopefully making the connections that you want them to make. So it sets up that culture that all of you are expected to meet this expectation, not just the 3 that decided to raise their hand.
Okay, so not just my three most confident students who maybe are most comfortable with the material already, but I expect everybody to learn this material. Even if you're a struggler, I expect you to learn this material. Perfect, I'll draw another stick. Another reason you'd want everyone to do everything. Ariane? Oh, she's on maternity leave. Let's do Paige.
We talked about just how kids, if they know that they won't be raising their hand, they just won't pay attention during the lesson, and it's good to try to get everyone to talk. And she was saying her kids know that I don't know is not an option.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to be wrong, but everyone needs to have something to share and be following along so they're not lost.
Okay, so it increases whole group participation, right? If everyone knows that they're accountable for the information and everyone participates in saying that information, it promotes whole group participation. Okay, I'll draw one more. Reason we would like everyone to do everything, would you say, Annette? Bailey, right there.
Okay, so we talked about how it was a lot easier for us as teachers to monitor where the students are at and the struggling students, where if we're doing a whiteboard activity or something and a kid holds up a straight line as perimeter, you could kind of gauge where they're at and then maybe do an extra one. It's really beneficial for you as a teacher to gauge where people are at and then keep the class all together so there's not the one kid that's 7 assignments behind or, just
Right.
those kind of things.
Okay, love that it keeps the teacher's ability to assess where the kids are at focused, right? That the teacher can quickly at a glance see who's with me, who's responding, who's getting this, and who's not, who drew a straight line for a perimeter, because that's a problem. Perfect, okay. Let me tell you from research a couple reasons that you should be having everyone do everything, everybody engage in every response. First one, will you fill in? Humans need to talk. You may have heard this before, but human beings' oral language ability, our ability to communicate orally, is the main factor that separates humans from the animal kingdom, to speak multiple languages. It's also the first question I ask when I go into a classroom that's super, super chatty. The first thing I look at is the teacher giving them enough opportunities to talk? Because if she's not, that's probably why they're stealing opportunities or taking opportunities, because she's not letting them talk enough, and they need to be talking, they need to be communicating. So will you read it with me? We're going to say humans need to talk and emphasize need. Will you do it? Humans need to talk. That's the first reason. Let's come to the next one. It increases the likelihood of your students learning academic language. Of course, we want them to learn English. That's important. But we also want them to be fluent in the language of mathematics and the language of science and the language of social studies and reading comprehension. We want our students to be comfortable in all of these content areas in order to achieve proficiency and be contributing happy citizens in society. You may know this, you may not, about memory. There's primarily 2 types of memory. One is called rote memory. We say it, rote memory. And the other is called procedural memory. We say it, procedural memory. So rote memory is what you use just to recall facts, like I know 2 + 2 is 4. I know 9 × 9 is 81. I know that my address is 281 Park Meadow Drive, right? Those are facts that we recall based on rote memory. Procedural memory is what is more commonly referred to as muscle memory. I know how to ride a bike because my legs and my core know how to balance and pedal just right in order to make that happen. I know how to play the piano because my fingers have memorized where those notes are. I know how to kick I don't really know how to do this, but if I were a soccer player, I would know how to kick the ball to go into the goal because I've practiced those kicking strokes enough. Okay, so when we say that having students use the language and repeat the language with you increases their academic language ability, it's because they're engaging in a procedural memory activity. Did you hear that? It's because they're engaging in a procedural memory activity. Right with me, thank you. Last one, this is my favorite. Why have everyone do everything? Because it keeps kids engaged. There's a reason it's called an engagement strategy. The more you allow your kids to participate, the more you allow your kids to talk, the less disruptive and the less off task they will be. I think of it like this: more participation, less disruption. And they go like this. Can we do that starting more participation? Ready? More participation, less disruption. You got it. I'm going to tell a story about Rachel. Surprise, you didn't know I was going to do this, but there she is, folks. She teaches the 2nd grade French immersion section at Providence. And I had the privilege of being in her classroom today. And what I saw were kids responding over and over and over again. She had them talking as a group, she had them talking in partners. Sometimes she was taking individual, but she was doing more whole group. Well, what she probably didn't notice, and what I did notice, is that she had this little squirrel sitting on the back row, this little boy that was kind of wiggly. And so he's sitting there, and she's talking about Pascal or somebody. And he's kind of wiggling, and he's looking at his neighbor, and he goes like this and puts his head on his desk. And then she invites a whole group response, and this is what he does. And he says it with them. And then he gets kind of wiggly, and he starts to kind of scoot back a little bit, and she invites another whole group response, and this is what he does. And every time she did that, he went from kind of scooting, kind of wiggling, kind of looking and shifting to being right back with the class. It was incredible. That's a kid that in a setting without whole group engagement, I can tell you right now, would be flopping out of his chair and on the floor and crawling under tables, and principal would be calling me saying, I think we have a kid with autism. I think we have a kid with ADD. I think we need an individualized behavior aid or an individualized behavior plan because this kid just can't pay attention. So often that is not the case. They're just bored. You've got to bring them in and make them excited about the instruction. Rachel, nicely done. It was so fun to watch. Before we move away from this, let's just read those together. Reasons that we should use engagement. Will you read them with me, starting on humans need? Ready? Humans need to talk. Number 2, increases likelihood of students learning academic language. Last one, keeps kids engaged. Thank you. So here's what I want to do next. You have in front of you a blank space where what I want you to do is write down some insights you have about engagement strategies. So I'm going to model using some for the next few minutes as I review corrections from last week and bring in some whole group choral response opportunities, bring in some actions. I want you to write down, what do you notice is done and why does it work? Why would it keep the kids' attention if you were to do this in your classroom? Okay, so will you just be jotting down some notes, and in a minute I'll ask you to share what you wrote. Okay, so this is from last week. It's a review so that you can focus on what are the engagement strategies used. Okay, we talked last week about corrections, and we said there's basically 3 components to correction. My turn first. With itness, thank you. Corrections, redo or removal. Thank you. When we talked about with itness, I believe we did an action with it where we said, of course the teacher's aware of what's happening right in front of her, but he or she is also constantly scanning. Do you remember that? I'll start, you finish. He or she is also constantly scanning. So we did this where we said with itness to show, yes, you're aware of what's happening right here, but you are also scanning what happens elsewhere. Will you do with itness with the action? Ready? With itness. You got it? And then we talked about corrections. And we said when you do a correction, it needs to be swift, right? You need to catch that first domino, and it needs to be given in a no-nonsense voice. So when we say corrections, can we go like this? Maybe let's do a snap, and we're going to say corrections. We're going to shake our head. We're going to not make a lot of eye contact because it's not emotional. We're just going to say corrections, and we're going to correct it briefly. We're going to snap it briefly. Will you try it on corrections? Ready? Corrections. Other hand. Ready? Corrections. Thank you. One thing I didn't talk about last week that I would like to just discuss briefly this week is that it's really effective to give a correction by also giving a praise statement. What? Are you blown away? By that I mean, if you have a little kid that's kind of wiggling, like let's use Rachel's kid in the back row, okay? If you have a kid that's kind of wiggling and his partner next to him is sitting in power position, I might want to do something like this where I say, let's say his name is James, where I say, oh, James, you should be sitting just like Celeste. Her arms are folded, her eyes are up here, you should be doing the same thing. And you specifically point out what that child is doing that earns your approval. Now, I've heard a lot of teachers say, oh yeah, praise around, I've heard of that. It's not quite the same thing. This is more specific, it's more direct. Praise around would be like Hayden is off task and being wiggly and silly. And thanks Hayden, now she's wiggling. Very effective. And I say something like, oh, Marnie is sitting nice and neat. Thank you. And Natalie, your hands are on top of the table. I appreciate that. Jessica's right with me. And I'm praising the kids around her without ever actually addressing Hayden. The difference here is that I actually address Hayden and I say, Hayden, your arm should be on top of the table just like Marnie's. Oh, much better. I followed it with approval. Remember that? Okay. So would you say with me, correct by praising, and maybe let's say correct like it's brief and no nonsense, but by praising like, oh, now everything is happy again. Can we do correct by praising? Ready? Correct by praising. Thank you. I do this as much for my amusement as yours, just so you know. Just a quick side note about that, if you teach an upper grade, 4th, 5th, or 6th, a lot of times kids don't like to be singled out like that. They would be embarrassed by that. So in 4th, 5th, or 6th grade, the trick is to do it as a group, because it's always cool to do what the other kids are doing, right? So if Chris is my little wiggle worm, I might say something like, oh, Chris, you should be sitting just like Sarah, just like Lynn. Your hands are on top of your desk, your eyes are up here. So now I've put them in a group that the group is doing what's right more than just the individual. Pre-K, kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, you can totally be like, oh my gosh, everybody stop, everybody look at Stephanie right now. I've never seen such gorgeous sitting. You can do that and they will eat it up. Don't do that in 4th, 5th, 6th. The last one we talked about was you can do a removal. We do that with your hands. You can do a removal where you take something away, you take away a privilege or you take away an object or something. Or you can do a redo. I'll start, you finish. Or you can do a redo. You got it. I saw this yesterday beautifully illustrated in a kindergarten classroom. Whitney Crosby. Anyone know Whitney? She's darling. She did 2 of these actually, back to back. She told the kids that it was time to come over to the rug and sit down. They all came to the rug, they all sat down, and she had this little boy who was laying on the rug and started kicking his feet up in the air. And he wasn't being defiant, he was just having fun. He was just rolling back. And so she said to him, oh, Ethan, friend, go back to your seat. I'll invite you over when you're ready to sit on your pockets. And she removed him from the group. At the same time, she had told them to come to the rug, and she had this cute little Marie who came to the rug like this, full-on sprint, like running across the classroom. Guess what she says to her? Oh, Marie, my friend, we don't run in the classroom. Go back to the tile and try that again. Wow. It was no nonsense. It was brief. She wasn't mean about it, and they both complied. And guess what it did to the dominoes? No dominoes. I'll ask your answer. Guess what it did to the dominoes? No dominoes. She prevented the behavior from spiraling out of control. So let's just, as a quick review, let's do those things. We're going to start with itness, and then corrections, and then removal or redo. That's a lot to remember. Will you stay with me? We'll try with itness, starting with itness. Ready? With itness, and then corrections, corrections, and removal, removal, and redo, redo. Perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, hopefully you've jotted some notes about things that make engagement strategies effective or how they work. Do you know what? Let's just share out for this one. Raise of hands. I know you shouldn't do this. I'm doing it anyway because you're adults. By raise of hands, who could tell me something they noticed about why those engagement strategies worked or how it is they worked? Stephanie?
I think it worked because you did them frequently. It wasn't just like once and done. You did a lot of different things all the time.
Okay, so it's repeated engagement opportunities, right? It's not just, I'm going to show you with itness and now you're going to sit like this the rest of the time. Repeated engagement opportunities. Love it. What else? Some of you are writing notes. I can't fault you for that. Thank you. Annie?
I just noticed it's super smooth. Like, even if I wanted to chat with Chad, like, I don't have a second to even think about what I'd say to him because there's something right next. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
It's just, it comes one after the other. But then also your cues are super smooth. So I'll start, you finish, and then you go right into the next thing, which is another response. Does that make sense? Like, you
Okay.
set it up really smooth.
So clear cueing helps,
For sure.
but the more clearly you cue and the more often you cue, the less time you have to engage in disruptions.
Yeah.
To say to Chad, like, hey, what are you and your wife doing this weekend? Yeah, Micah.
That's something that I've noticed with my kids with using the hand motions for engagement.
Okay, I'm going to pause you right there because Micah has been doing this. I saw him in his classroom a couple weeks ago, and then we had a conversation. So he's been trying to do this with his class, using the actions, using the choral response. Okay, keep going.
And my kids, they really do love it. I get a few stragglers that don't do it, but when I start ensuring that the whole group is using it, it really keeps my kids on task. It really does. And I can't always think of the best hand motions, and so I ask my class as a whole, just like you do. Okay, can people give me ideas? And then I start getting them thinking outside
Yes.
the box and engaging in, oh, well, I've got an idea for an action. And then they're engaging that way. They're a part of the process, really, what's happening.
I love that. He said they're a part of the process. Can we say that with him? They are a part of the process. I love that, yes. And I'm going to make a confession right now. Ready? Sometimes when I don't have an action, or I do have an action, but I want the kids thinking about it, I might say something like, show me, don't tell me, just show me at your seats if you have an action that would go with, everyone does everything. What could we do for everything? Will you show me that? Guess what? None of you did a single thing except Monty, who went like this and started showing me on his fingers. Thank you for that. But I don't say that. I don't say, wow, nobody is doing anything. I say, okay, some of you are going like this and showing me like tasks on your finger. Guess what the entire group starts doing? Oh yeah, I was doing that too. I had that idea too. It's okay if you just pick your favorite one, or if you already have one and pretend that somebody thought of it. Sneaky, right? That's a good teacher adjective, sneaky. Okay, I thought I saw one more hand. What makes these strategies effective?
Is that a strategy?
What's that?
I thought I saw one more hand.
No? Marnie. It is, but I wasn't using it with you guys. Celeste, where is Celeste? I saw you. Okay, will you talk about your experience? Just come up here. You're cute. They want to look at you. Don't you want to look at her? You want to? Come on.
Okay.
Because you've been doing this too, and I want you to tell us, like, okay, this is what I love about Celeste. She's ever honest. She had an engagement strategy fail and then a fix. So will you confess both?
Yes, I'll confess both. So, in my class, I was noticing Sarah's Sarah's strategy with us, and when we first started class, I was like, oh, I don't want to do the hand actions, but I do them anyways, right? And she would usually give us a definition, how she does it with us. Anyways, I'm like, well, I'm going to use that in my second grade class. So for Reader Street, you give them vocabulary words. And in those vocabulary words, there's the definition. And I thought, oh, I'll give them the vocabulary word, and then I'll give them the definition, and they can use a hand action for the full definition. So the first couple days, I'd be like, okay, the word is launch. What word? And they'd say launch. And I'd say launch means to take off. I don't even know what the definition is.
Into outer space.
Into outer space. And I'd say, okay, what could we use for the launch? And they, oh, launch. And I was like, okay, all right, everyone say launch and say the definition. And all of a sudden I hear, launch is to blah, blah, blah. And they're like being weird. And I was like, this is not working. These second graders cannot say the they can't do the hand action and say the sentence at the same time. I need to simplify. And so now what we do for vocabulary is I have a PowerPoint, and every day there's the word, and I teach them the word, and they repeat the sentence back. And then after they've shared with their partner a sentence, we as a class come up with a hand action, as she's taught us. And now launch is, I say, class, show me launch, and they all go, launch. Or class, show me landform, and they show me landform. And they say the word as they show me. And so
Perfect.
I feel like it's helping them remember simpler.
Thank you.
So
Should we clap? I mean, I feel like that. I love that she was honest enough to admit it didn't work at first. Like at first I was trying to do too much. I had to simplify it because I think we all have to go through that before we can use them smoothly and effortlessly. Here's any last hands? Okay, here's what I want to do. We're going to talk about strategies. Thank you for turning with me. Goodness. Okay. Strategies for effective engagement. So will you fill in by number 1? The first thing you want to be sure you do is have students repeat unfamiliar or key concepts. In other words, if I'm a pre-K, kindergarten, first, second grade teacher and I'm talking about the vowels, I'm going to say, students, today we're learning about the vowels. Say vowels 3 times. Ready? Vowels, vowels, vowels. The vowels are, my turn first, A, E, I, O, U. And we could go faster because that's a short list, right? Okay, those are the vowels. I want to have students repeating that because that's the key content in that lesson. If I'm going to teach about fractions, how about I do that and you go dun, 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 because that's how I feel about fractions. If I'm going to teach about fractions, dun, 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 then I'm going to say, students, today we're learning about fractions. Will you clap the word fractions? Ready? Fractions. You got it. When I say fractions, I'm not talking about the whole of something, like the whole pizza. I'm talking about parts of the pizza, pieces of the pizza. My turn first. Whole. Pieces. Or fractions. They mean the same thing, okay? So you're going to focus their attention on what matters most. Even art specialists, you guys can do this with something like, today we're going to study Vincent van Gogh. Will you say, I don't know how to really say that, I'm just kidding. Will you say Vincent van Gogh? Everybody? Vincent van Gogh. You're going to have them repeating those key ideas, that key content. Will you talk to your partner for just a minute about why you would do that? Why do you want to have them repeating the unfamiliar or the key parts of your lesson? Letter A's go first. And we're back together. Thank you. If I were still giving class dollars, you would have earned one for that. Thank you. Will you tell us, please, why would you have students repeat unfamiliar or key concepts? What's the advantage there? Rachel?
We said that because it's most of the time it's a new word for them, so they have to tell it, to memorize it easily.
Yes. Okay. Often our new content it's the new vocabulary, it's the new word, and they have to practice forming that word in order to memorize that word. You form it to memorize it. Can we do it with her? You form it to memorize it. You got it. Okay, I'll draw another stick. Why else would you want to have them repeat the unfamiliar or key parts of your content? Mandy? Mandy?
Yeah, but I think, it's help them to remember the things and because also get their attention, they cannot do other things. They have to do the things that allow them to do. And,
Yes.
I think it's also a way to,
Okay, you can stop there. That's totally fine. So she said kind of the same idea, to help them remember, right? To help them remember the language and to focus their attention, okay? So I want you to notice this strategy. Because I've just called on an individual, I can still turn it into a whole group response by having you echo a piece of what she did. So can we say with Mandy, help them remember, focus their attention. Ready? Help them remember, focus their attention. Thank you. Let me just show you a couple ideas why you might want to have them repeat the unfamiliar or key concepts. First one, what Mandy said, that's how you focus their attention on what matters most. I saw a cute 4th grade teacher last year who was trying to use a lot of choral responses, trying to use a lot of engagement, and this is what she was doing. 4th graders, take out your books. It is time for math. What's it time for? Math. Yep, and after math, we're going to go to recess. Where are we going to go? And after recess, then we're going to come in and we're going to do a read aloud. What are we going to do? Very good, you guys are right with me. No, they weren't. That was an attempt at using engagement strategies, which I applaud her for, but the kids were not engaged because she was focusing their attention on the menial. By contrast, let me tell you about a cute 1st grader. This happened to be on a day of a district walkthrough, so all the administrators come into your classroom. So the administrators had come into my classroom. There were 4 of them there. And I say to the kids, we're going to do a little bit of work with adding, and we're going to practice with switcheroos. Will you do it with me? And they all went, switcheroos. And this little girl raises her hand, and I said, yes, Tessa. She says, Miss Smith, it's not called a switcheroo. And I said, oh yeah, smarty pants, what is it? And she goes, it's called the commutative property of addition. I tell you what, I almost kissed her. I was like, thank you for saying that while they were here. I mean, of course, I played it very cool. Oh, that's right, we did learn that, didn't we? Yeah. Can everybody sit up straight and tall and use your proper fancy voice to say commutative property of addition? And the whole class, guess what they did? Commutative property of addition. And the administrators in the back are going. And I'm like, I can't believe that just happened. I've never lucked out like that in my life. Like that doesn't happen to me, and it happened that day. But I think it illustrates that their attention had been focused on the content that mattered most, which was not just math, but specifically commutative property of addition, right? Next point. Actually, let's do this. That's how you focus their attention. Can we do focus like we're zeroing in on something really important? Starting students, ready? Nope, not starting students, starting that's how, ready? That's how you focus their attention. Thank you. Next reason, students must use the language in order to master the language. Chelsea, I'm going to tell a story about you. You guys never know if I'm going to tell a story about you. But I was in Chelsea's classroom, and she's got a large ESL population in her kindergarten room. And as she was doing calendar with her kiddos one day, last week before, she said to them, kindergartners, will you say the word September? And they said September, but she didn't have everyone quite with her, so she said, let's say September 3 times. Will you do it? September, September, September. And she clearly counted, she clearly cued them. And this is what I watched. I watched little Valeria sitting in the second row, her Spanish-speaking Valeria. And Valeria went like this. On the first one, she went, September. And by the third one, she had it. September. And I was like, that was amazing. By giving her an opportunity to chorally engage, in the curriculum, she's going to learn that curriculum much faster. So we have to use the language to master the language. I'll start, you finish. You have to use the language to master the language. Thank you. Let's go to the next strategy. Wow. I hope you're not fast readers and you don't know what's coming. Generally, repeat the language with the students. This is the one I see most often not done in a classroom, even after we have a class like this, and even after I tell teachers to do it. It's the one that teachers most often don't do, but it's so critical that when you cue the kids to give a choral response, you ask them to say it and you say it with them. Let me give you an example of why. Would you say with me, Je vous aime, mon petit, je vous adore. Ready? Very good. No, it wasn't very good. Okay, I'm going to do it again. Listen, and I know I'm slaughtering your language. I know. It's for the sake of demonstration. Pay no attention to the French. Okay. Listen again. Je vous aime, mon petit, je vous adore. Ready? You're not doing it. Do we need to take away a point? Do we need to take away recess? What do we need to do? Because you're not participating with me. Let's try it again. Ready? I've got the hardest class. I think they all must have ADD or something. I need 55 behavior aids. Why do... Right. Okay, I'm still going to get it wrong, but let me do a redo. Watch my lips. You're going to say, Je vous aime, mon petit, je vous adore. Ready? Je vous aime, mon petit, je vous adore. Much better. Okay, I want you, even though that's a long phrase and it doesn't mean anything, I know. Why would you do that? Why would you want to repeat the language with your students? Letter B's. 1 minute, go. Thank you for coming back together. Will you tell us, if I draw your stick, why do you think you should repeat the language with the students? What's the advantage? Shannon.
We thought that it was kind of a visual cue as well as, and that you're engaging every learner in that, because there's some people that learn by seeing, and so by watching your mouth, they get a visual clue.
Perfectly stated. It's a visual cue, not just an auditory cue. Can we do that with her? Starting, it's a visual, not just an auditory. It's a visual cue, not just an auditory cue. And that was a lot for you to repeat, but I said it with you. So some of you were, even though you were kind of lagging, you could do it. You notice? I'm not going to draw another stick, but let's go through research. You know I love research. Why would you repeat the language with the students? First, because it controls accuracy. Remember I told you we were talking about the word destroy. We were talking about natural disasters that might destroy places on Earth. I had a cute little Christopher in my class that year who was with his friends at they were doing a friendship center or something. It was near the beginning of the year. And he said, at that center, he said, guys, he got kind of excited. It's like the tomato. And the kids in his group, the other 3 little boys said, wait, what? And he said, the tomato destroys it. Remember, like the book. And Hunter, my cute, darling Hunter, who's going to grow up to be quarterback of the football team, says to him, no, Christopher, it's tornado. Oh. And then he goes like this. He goes, watch, tornado. And Christopher goes, tornado. And all 3 cute little boys go, yeah, good job. That was the first cue for me to be like, why don't I do that? Why don't I also provide a visual cue? Why should he have to encounter that in a peer setting later? Luckily, they were kind and compassionate. They were willing to talk him through that. That's not always the case, right? So it helps control accuracy if you will do that. You might be saying, well, yeah, that's our ESL population. Everyone else is fine. My daughter, who's in 6th grade, who's a pretty good student, doesn't struggle with English, doesn't struggle with a lot of content, came home a couple of weeks ago and said, Mom, we're supposed to do this homework assignment, but it's kind of confusing. We're supposed to be doing something called I think it's the disturbing property. I was like, well, it is disturbing. But she meant distributive. Say it with me, distributive, right? You should be providing visual cues to control accuracy. Next, saying it with the students controls their pacing. If you don't mind, I hope this isn't unpatriotic, but would you stand up for a moment? And I'm going to show you, in classes where the teacher does not respond with the students, this is what the Pledge of Allegiance sounds like. Go ahead. Maybe you already know. And pretend we have a student leader. And they say, ready, begin. I pledge allegiance. No, you're going too fast. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Okay, stop. You're killing me. I can't take it. Like, that's too slow. And when the teacher controls the pacing, it can sound like this. And you better believe I do this the first couple days of school. Okay, watch me. I pledge allegiance. Ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Have a seat. Yes. It can be done. It can be done faster than I pledge. And I use that because it's the most common example I encounter, but it happens all over the place if you control the pacing. So let's do it like this, if you don't mind. I'll say, why say it with the kids? And you say, controls the pacing. And let's pick it up, okay? Why say words with your kids? It controls the pacing. Oh, I like that. Okay, last one. You generally repeat language with the students in order to control the volume. That's what it will say when it responds. Volume. I hear this all the time. Let's just use the distributive property since we were just talking about it. Students, who remembers, okay, that was badly phrased, so we're going to learn about something today called the distributive property. Would you say that with me? And when I go like this, what I want you to do is some of you shout and some of you be soft, because that's what really happens if the teacher doesn't respond with the kids. Today we're going to talk about the distributive property. Will you say that? Distributive property. Very good. No, not very good. Don't say that. I'm going to control the volume. Today we're going to learn about the distributive property. Will you say it? Distributive property. Not only am I modeling it, but I'm also cueing you. This is how you should respond. You should say it exactly like I just said it. So it controls the volume. Repeat the language with the students. Why? Will you read them each with me? Controls accuracy, controls pacing, controls volume. Let's do volume loud. Controls volume. Okay, here's what we're going to do next. Oh. Exception. Oh, there is an exception when you're reviewing flashcards with the kids, like sight word flashcards or letter flashcards or something like that, and you want to review the content and you want to see what they know, or you want them to be accountable, that's when you would not respond. That's why it says generally respond. When it's reviewing content, then you want to let them take the reins, but you would step back in if the pacing became too slow, if the volume was too loud, you can always take the reins back, right? Okay, so this video is a 3.5-minute video of introducing letter M to my kiddos. The volume is really bad, I'm sorry. But what I want you to watch for, two things, is that they're repeating the key content, which is learning letter M, and I'm responding with them. So would you watch for both of those for this 3.5-minute video? Jot down any notes. Okay, first graders, before we start talking about our letter today, what I want you to do is check if your pencil is parked and check if, Ben read my mind. He was already scooting his chair up. Trevor read my mind. His arms are already in power position. Perfect. I want you to stay in power position the whole time so that you can listen as we talk. Ready? We're learning today about the letter M, which some of you already knew because we did handwriting for letter M earlier. Do you remember that? But we're talking today about the letter M. Will you say it 3 times? You got it. I love the letter M because to me it makes what's kind of a yummy sound. When you make the letter M sound, no, don't do it. You put your lips together and you make a sound with your voice like this. Will you try it with me? Ready? Perfect. And the reason I say it's a yummy sound is because if you do it 3 times, like it kind of looks like you just tasted something yummy. Can we try it 3 times? Ready? You got it. Now we've talked a lot about the vowels, so we've said the vowels are A, E, I, O, U. M is not a vowel. Raise your hand if you think you know what M is. It's the opposite of a vowel. Danny?
Consonant.
Consonant. Ashley?
Consonant.
Consonant. Everybody?
Consonant.
Yes, letter M is a consonant. You got it. Over here on the board, I have some words that start with letter M. It's my turn first. You're going to echo me. My turn first. Mat.
Mat.
Miss.
Miss.
Mop.
Mop.
Good. Did you hear how mat, miss, mop started with the letter M? Can we try stretching it? I'm not taking hands. I want us just to stretch the first sound like mat, so that you can stretch the M sound. Can we try it?
Mat.
Good. On miss.
Miss.
Good. On mop.
Mop.
You got it. That was perfect. I'm watching for kids who quietly have a whiteboard out and they're ready to write. Miriam, let's see what else. Really quickly. Wow, Hallie, ready to go. A lot of kids ready. Thank you for doing this so quickly. Okay, on your board, will you write for me first the word map? Like the map will show you where to go. Ooh, a lot of kids already done. Tell me each letter starting M.
M-A-P.
You got it, map. Can you go faster? Get with me. Erase, erase. Next word. Will you get your fingers out? This one's kind of tricky because the M comes in the middle. Will you stretch the word lamp? Stretch it.
O-M.
Go ahead. Ooh, nice and neat, JD. Thank you. Lamp should be 4 letters. Will you tell me which ones you put starting L?
L-A-M-P.
Woo! Excellent. I heard somebody over here that was right with me. I'm not sure who that was, but if that was you, thank you very much. Erase, erase. Next one, choppers out. This is a word that means the metal part of your tire. You know on cars how they have tires? The metal part in the middle, those are called the rims. Will you get your choppers out? Root word in rims is?
Rim.
Perfect. Starting root word, rim. Add your suffix, rims. I'll start, you finish. Rims should be R-I-M with the suffix S. You got it. Erase, erase. My class. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just thought of something I hadn't told you. Will you park your marker? Ooh, JD so fast, Daniel fast, thank you. Eyes are ready. Up on the board, I forgot, SM is a blend that sometimes goes together. And it, oh, I haven't called on anyone. When you do SM slow motion, it goes like this. Who do it? Can you try it slow motion? I'll take a hand if you know a word that starts with Smush a bug. Smush. Tyler?
Smart.
Smart. Like Tyler is so smart. Another one? Kaylee?
Smoke.
Smoke, like the chimney let out a lot of smoke. Good. Wyatt?
Smack.
Smack, like Wyatt will smack the spider. Smack. Finn?
Snow.
Snow? Ooh, you're close. Listen to snow. That's an S-N blend. Let's keep thinking. Claire?
Smile.
Smile. Show me your best smile. Oh, you look so nice. Last one, Brooklyn. Smooth. Like the glass was so smooth. My turn first. Will you echo me and listen how each of these start with an S-N blend? Your hands are on top of your desk. My turn first. Smith.
Smith.
Smush.
Smush.
Smart.
Smart.
Smoke.
Smoke.
Smack.
Smack.
Smile.
Smile.
Smooth.
Smooth.
Right with me, guys. Thank you very much. Okay. I feel like I should ask, do you want to say anything? You good? We can just keep going? Yeah. Diane.
It's a little bit back. Does this work with the sixth graders also? Or do they look into like, what do you
Oh, does it work with sixth graders? Excellent question. I've effectively seen this used even up through eighth grade. I think what you have to be careful of is that your tone isn't babying and your tone isn't condescending when you invite the whole group response. So in a first grade class, you might say something like, we're learning about Vincent van Gogh. Can you say that? And then you'd be kind of excited and animated. In sixth grade, you want to be a little more rapid paced. You want to say, we're learning about an artist named Vincent van Gogh. Say it with me, Vincent van Gogh. And you're going to be just a little bit more abrupt, a little bit, maybe abrupt is the wrong word, a little more fast paced. Yeah, great question. Okay, let's talk about this last strategy and then you're going to have a chance to practice, okay? Last strategy for effective engagement, signal to the students when they should respond. You laugh, but I've seen it not done. I was driving to Mountainside yesterday, and there was a car in front of me that all of a sudden just slowed down. So I slowed down immediately. I was like, is there a deer in the road? Why are we slowing down? Is there road work going on? What's happening? And all of a sudden, the driver just turned into the driveway. And I was like, use your blinker, that's what it's for. Cues are the same way with effective whole group engagement. You should be cueing the kids when they are to respond. It's frustrating for them if you do something like, okay, today we're learning about letter G. Everybody say G. Everybody say G. Okay, that was much better. The first time, though, is how kids commonly respond if you don't cue them how they should respond. Let's do... I'm going to tell you 2 effective cues and then I'll show you an example. 2 effective cues, of course, you point at your mouth because you want to signal, I'm going to say something that you're going to be required to echo. And then next, you can just say, ready. Now, there are other cues you could use too, but ready is the easiest. It's the one that seems to work the best for the most people. It would look like this. Today, we're going to learn about letter G. Will you say letter G? Ready? Letter G. You got it. And do you see how much clearer that was, how much crisper it was? It's a point and a signal. Point and a signal. Do it with me. Point and a signal. Point and a signal. You got it. Here's what I want you to avoid. I have this cute woman who goes to my church, and sometimes when she stands up to teach primary, to teach the young kids, she'll do something like this. Today we're going to learn a song called Dare to Do Right. Everybody say that with me on the count of 3. On the count of 3, when I say 1, 2, 3, go, you're going to say that with me, and the whole group will do it. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3, go! You guys didn't say it with me. Well, what's the matter?
What did they say?
Way too long. The time, yeah, a lot of you are going like this, and you really are doing that. I'm not making it up. A lot of you are doing this. Now I feel like I'm going to have to tell you when I'm telling the truth. It took way too long. She's interrupted their short-term memory processing ability, right? Because it took too long to give that cue. I hear a lot of teachers who even do something like this. Today we're going to learn a song called Dare to Do Right. Of course, they don't say that, but for example, will you say dare to do right? Ready, set, go. Dare to do right. You can still do it, but it's just disconnected. It's disjointed. It's not as smooth as. We're going to sing a song called Dare to Do Right. Say it. Dare to do right. So I didn't use the word ready, but cues should be short, sweet, and to the point. Can I say that again? Your cues should be short, sweet, and to the point. A couple other cues I like. Some teachers say get ready. That works too. Everybody say launch. Get ready, launch. So get ready works too. Some teachers do echo. We're going to do the word launch. Echo, launch. It should be a single or at most 2-word cue though. Okay, here's what I want you to do. This is just cueing. This is not like you're teaching the whole lesson. Okay, it's just cueing. It's just cueing. Yes. Pick a cue, ready, get ready, echo, say it. I don't care what you pick. Pick a short cue. And what I want you to do is practice cueing your partner to repeat the following terms. So Sarah might say to Chris, if she chose persuasive writing, say with me, persuasive writing. Ready? Persuasive writing. And you're going to practice cueing your partner. We'll do this for maybe, I don't know, I'll see how you do, and then I'll bring you back together. Letter A's go first. Okay, time's up in 3, 2, 1. We're done. Great question right here that Stephanie and Kevin asked that probably a lot of you have wondered. She said, okay, if I introduce it though, if I say we're going to learn about vowels and consonants, say that with me, how do they know what they're supposed to say? Well, you're going to have to say it twice, right? You're going to introduce it, and then you're going to give them the cue that that's what they'll say. Today we're going to learn about vowels and consonants. Everybody say vowels and consonants. Ready? Vowels and consonants. Yeah, so now you've just said it 3 times because you also repeated it with the students. That's okay. It's new content. It's unfamiliar. It's the point of the lesson, so it's okay to have repeated uses of it. Andrew, coming to you, dude. Will you? Sorry. Wasn't that awful? Deep sigh. Ready? Okay. Andrew did such a nice job. I asked him if he would stand up and cue all of you to do what he did. Do you mind? Sure. He can't say no now, right?
So today we're going to talk about basic human rights. Can you say that with me? Basic human rights.
Ah, did you love that? Basic human rights. Can we do it with him? Basic human rights. I didn't cue word. Did you notice that? I just raised my voice higher at the end. Can you say it with him? Basic human rights. Which is something that I hope gives you hope. A lot of teachers, the better they become at engagement strategies, the less they worry about cueing and signal words, and the better they get at just using their voices as tools of prompting. So it's okay if you don't have it mastered at first. The idea is that you start mastering it, that you start practicing. Okay, here's what I want to do. For the next section, this is going to be silent, if you don't mind. I'm going to give you like 5 or 6 minutes. And I want you, on your paper, to jot down notes. You can do it bullet format, you can do it paragraph, I don't care, but I want you to jot some notes, if you will, about how you could introduce fact versus opinion. We're going to assume that these are your definitions. A fact is something shown or proven to be true, and then opinion, something someone believes to be true, may or may not be true. And I want you to do just a quick introductory, here's a 2-minute introductory to fact versus opinion, where we assume that the students know a little bit about facts, that you've been talking about facts, and now you're ready to move to opinions. Questions before you start? Yeah?
Sorry, I just have a question. So what do you do for those few kids, or just like one in particular, that literally won't do anything? You can push forever and he's just like, I don't know if he's too cool or what's going on. What do you do?
The most effective technique I've ever seen used, and this is, remember that list of effective teachers I talked about who correct behavior swiftly? This is what they do a lot of times. It might be, today we're going to learn about fact versus opinion. Tara, don't say anything. You sit there like, I don't want to do this. Okay.
Got it.
Like I'm already doing. And let me show you what you can effectively do for that one kiddo. Okay, today we're going to learn about fact versus opinion. Will you say fact versus opinion? Fact versus opinion. Oh my goodness, Stephanie, I'm loving what you're doing. Little lady looks great. I heard actually a lot of kids right here, right with me. Thank you. When we talk about fact versus opinion and you move on, you praise and give attention, rich attention to the kids that are with you. You can still correct, right? Tara, you're doing it with us. Move your mouth. But if she continues to non-comply, guess what you can require at a later time? A redo. Yep, she might need to stay for the 2 minutes before lunch to practice whatever it is she wasn't doing before she accesses the privilege that the rest of the group has. So first answer, praise. Praise is always your best friend. Praise is always your buddy, first and foremost. But if not, give a correction and require a redo if the correction doesn't work. Okay, I want you to have time for this. So 5 minutes, you're just quietly writing, how could you introduce fact versus opinion, build in at least 5 opportunities for engagement. You can use actions, you can use echoes, you can use story. I don't care what you do, but 5 opportunities. Go. So that multiple people have an opportunity to respond, we're going to do this in partners. I hope you notice the effectiveness of that. I'm going to ask you to tell your partner how you would introduce it. If you want to actually do it as though they were the student, go for it. If you want to just talk through it, that's okay too. But go through how would you introduce fact versus opinion, and then I hope we'll have time in a few minutes that we can share out and have at least 1 or 2 good examples of what you did. So maybe try to limit yourself to 1.5, 2 minutes at the most as you go through how would you introduce fact versus opinion. Letter B's, will you go first? We're done. Instead of drawing sticks, do I have any partners that would like to nominate their partner to share what they did because it was so phenomenal? Paige? Rachel?
Okay.
Do you need some, come on up, what are you doing? Come on.
That's okay.
You gotta be visible.
Okay. So I teach 6th grade, and so my
Here, we're gonna share the
Okay.
mic so people in the video can hear too. You're gonna be on YouTube.
So I teach 6th
Here, let's
grade,
come up here.
and so my kids, they love to talk about things that aren't about school because they just love talking with their friends. So I would first start out the lesson having them echo the words opinion and fact, and we'd talk about the definitions. And then we would come up with some actions, and they like kind of sassy actions. So with like opinion, we'd say opinion. And
Oh,
we'd
let's
act
have them do
out.
it. Will you cue it? Will you cue them to do
Yeah.
it?
So the word is opinion, and I'll say it first. Opinion. Opinion. And now let's do the action with it. Opinion. Opinion. And I like doing this with 6th graders instead of this because it's a little more old for the age. So I've noticed it's a little bit less of babying. So after we do that, we would then move on to partner work with it. So I'd say, okay, this first let's do fact. So with fact, I want you to measure a partner and see who is taller. And so they'd measure the partner, and I'd say, okay, raise your hand if you're the taller partner. That's a fact. We can't change that. We measured it to prove it. And then I would say, okay, now with your partner, now let's do opinion. Do you like chocolate ice cream? And they would say from that why they like chocolate ice cream or why they don't like it to their partner. And then we'd explain that together, and I would say, so I noticed like some of you guys raised your hand saying that you like chocolate ice cream and some of you said you didn't. Now that's your opinion, right? Your opinion could always change. One day when I was older, I actually really did like chocolate ice cream. When I was younger, I did not. Your opinion is different from others' opinions in the class, so it's not a fact. And so we'd kind of go over that with discussion.
Love it. Thank you. Okay, so I'll tell you a couple things I liked about that. I liked that she said we're going to talk about fact and opinion. She had them repeat fact and opinion. She did an action for, what was your action for fact? What would you do?
Fact.
Fact. Ooh, I like it. Do it with me. Ready? fact. And then opinion was opinion, like this is what I think is the best. Fun. I like sassy. I like that. And then she gave a couple of rich examples, right? When we measure height, that can be proven or shown to be true. Opinion, we could talk about chocolate ice cream. We could say, what's your favorite ice cream? Which one is the best and why? Justify it, right? I love that. Great. Anyone else have something they want to nominate their partner to share, even if it was just a piece of it and not the whole thing? This is called wait time. I'm just waiting and I'm comfortable with it. Yeah.
We talked
Mary.
about maybe we should make a list or at least a couple things on your lesson plan so that you get used to doing it, because it's hard in the spur of the moment to be thinking.
Yes. Okay, I love that point. When you first start using engagement opportunities, especially choral engagement opportunities, it's probably important that you write yourself a couple notes, that you jot a couple of ideas. When I teach kids, I don't have to do that. It just comes naturally. I get going and I feel it, and it makes sense to me because it keeps them with me. When I do it with you guys, not yet. I'm not there yet. You're going to think I'm a dork, but look, this was my page for reviewing corrections and modeling engagement strategies. The black are things that I wanted to review, but the orange, all of that orange on there, was an opportunity to somehow bring you in. So for with itness, I wrote scan the room. For correction, I wrote shake, head, snap. Because I don't naturally think to do those things in front of adults. You guys don't need it the way the kids do. So absolutely, jotting yourself some notes is fantastic. I'm going to ask you, if you don't mind, we're doing this a little differently today. I'm going to ask you to stay until 6 o'clock as you fill out your takeaway log. Some of you might finish early. That's okay. Will you please stay in the room? Because after maybe 3 or 4 minutes, I want to spend the last 1 to 2 minutes people sharing out one or two things, one thing they're going to take away. Okay? So I'm going to ask you to take this 5 minutes, even if you don't fill it, that you stay a full 5 minutes. What will you take away? Okay, teachers, in the last minute, it's okay that some of you aren't done. Go ahead and finish. But can I ask everyone to be quiet again? Because I'm going to take just a couple of hands. Will you just share with us one quick tip or trick you learned about engagement tonight? Something you wrote on your log or something you were writing. Tara.
So just an insight that I just thought of is, when everyone's engaged and participating, that I can see how it would eliminate distractions, because typically those that are being distracting are those that are terribly bored because they know the content very well, or those that are don't know or are behind or have that auto processing thing or whatever,
Right.
where they just can't keep up or they can't come up with the answers or whatever, and so they're generally the ones that are disruptive, or like they said, the ones that already know the content fairly well.
Your
because they're
advanced
totally
students.
bored, our advanced students. So if you are engaging all of them, then it kind of takes care of both of those problems, and so I can see how that would eliminate.
Okay, I'm going to go back to our school of fish analogy. I love that she said engagement will pick up your advanced kids, but also your strugglers too, right? We can get both ends of the spectrum by bringing everybody in to participate. It's like your net has now picked up a much bigger school of fish than just the few that wanted to participate to begin with. Love it. One more. Marnie?
Well, I kind of thought of it like this class, because a lot of things we go to, we really could be on our phones or be doing other projects or be taking notes, but you don't let us do that.
I know, I'm sorry.
No, but I'm just saying, as adults, we're not in very many situations anymore, but it relates back to our students. It helps us recognize that because we have to fill things in, because we have to respond to you, because we have to repeat, that we have to listen to what's being said.
She's on to me.
I'm just being really blunt, but that's what we want.
No,
our
you're right.
students to
Yeah.
do.
Right.
You don't give us the chance to be writing our grocery list or whatever else we often do when we're at something, So anyway, just
Okay.
tying the two together.
Love it. So you keep them with you to keep them with you, right? Simply said. Yeah, love it. Teachers, you're gems. Thanks for coming tonight.